Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. Today we're going to be rescaping this tank. As you can see, I've got all the bits and pieces, but first we need to strip it down. But this isn't going to be any old rescape in regards to the sort of how we're going to deal with the filter in the tank. I want to actually completely disinfect the tank with hydrogen peroxide, and I'm also going to be doing the same with the filter, which means that all the beneficial bacteria that have been colonizing in there over the last 2 years is probably going to die. And the reason that I'm doing this is that if you see my previous video, I had a cladophora infestation. So the tank is stripped, and now it's time to strip the filter out, although I have a feeling there is going to be a lot of shrimp in here. And if it wasn't bad enough, taking the tank down and catching all the shrimp, and believe me, it took hours. As you can see, there is more shrimp in the filter. So first it's going to be a case of getting these out and making sure that there's going to be none in there, because obviously I'm going to be adding hydrogen peroxide and that would not be a very nice death. So yeah, I have to keep checking for the shrimps. I don't like leaving a man behind. So yeah, literally 10 hours later, everything was caught, everything was out with the filter, and it was time to put that in a bucket of water. And then along with all the media rings, the bio rings, whatever you want to call them. And then it was a case of adding in some hydrogen peroxide. But oh look, another shrimp. So again, another thorough search through all of the filter media, and it was then finally safe to add the hydrogen peroxide. So I'm just winging it, I'm guessing it and eyeballing it. I'm just literally going to pour in a cup's worth, like a 1-2 grow cup of hydrogen peroxide into this half a bucket of water. It's about right. I think with a plant dip, you'd usually do 20-1. Obviously, I want quite an aggressive solution here. I'm going to do the same with the actual like canister of the filter as well. And then I'm just going to leave them soak in for the whole time that it takes me to do this tank. So I'm just going to set them aside, and now it's time for the best part, and that is escaping the tank. So I'm going to start with a base of ADA power sand. It's just whatever I had left over, but it usually makes quite a nice base. It's pretty much just the volcano rock with charcoal, tourmaline, and various beneficial bacteria bits in. And then I'm just going to cap that with some Tropica soil. This isn't the powder, this is just the normal size. I'm just going to keep it pretty steeped at the back. The majority of the planting is going to be at the back, so I'm going to keep the front pretty clear. And then we're just going to go in with some ADA La Plata sand. I'm going to cap the whole thing. This isn't something that I normally do. Normally I would just stop here, but instead I'm going to cap all of the aqua soil as well. Not for any particular reason, it's just I used to do it and not really have many algae issues, and then I stopped doing it, and I feel like I have more algae issues, especially in the startup, and I'm guessing it's just because nutrients are in the water column, or like it's leaching into the water column a bit easier. So we're going to try this way, who knows. The wood that we're going to be using is red myrrh root wood. I have a few pieces. As you can see, I'm just kind of playing around. I didn't really have a set idea of what I was going to do. I was trying not to do triangular because I feel like every scape I do ends up as a triangle. And it was starting to be no different. It was going to end up a triangle. So I like made a conscious decision to be like, nope, we're doing something different. So I ended up doing, I guess, almost like an island style, or something that kind of comes from the center with a lot of vertical pieces of wood. And that was for a reason, because I knew that I wanted to do something specific. So it was just a case of playing around till I could get it right. I did have a few more pieces of red myrrh root wood on hand, but these three were the sort of nicest, most interesting pieces. So I was just determined to make these 3 pieces work. And in the end, I kind of got something that I was happy with. And as you can see, it's pretty much a central-ish composition. Normally, I would sort of leave it a few hours and come back and keep checking and tweaking, but I have fish that need to go back into this tank. So I didn't really have the luxury of sort of taking my time with it as much as I would have liked, because the fish were currently in a bucket. Next, I'm just cable tying this into position just while I glue it, because it's not very well balanced, especially that last middle piece that I put in, the sort of like vertical-ish middle piece. So I've cable tied it together just to keep it in place, and then I'm just gluing it with some cotton ball or like makeup remover pads and some super glue, and that's just going to create a really strong bond. And then I cover the super glue in sand. It just hides that bit of cotton and it just makes a more seamless look. So next, to my rock collection. That's something really nerdy that only aquascapers say, I'm guessing. But I've got some various rocks that I'd picked out beforehand. There's some Ice Age stone in the middle. On the far right is some elderly stone. But I think, oh look, the bunnies are out. And they are chewing the pond plants, as usual. There is literally nothing left of this pond. There's a build video of this on my channel. And it had plants growing all around it. And these two little lawnmowers, look, does not care at all. No Fs were given. Anyway, we've chose river pebbles. They're just my favourite stone at the minute. They create such a natural look, and they're also just like really easy to come by, so it makes things more affordable. Although I do think that some of these are actually from Wio, because they do some rounded boulders. So I think some of them are actually from there, but some of them I'm pretty sure are just from a beach. So it's just a case of putting these in around the base of the hardscape. I think in my mind what I was trying to do was create almost like a cove. So I was trying to sort of make the pebble sort of angle round, so that in the very middle of the foreground, you've kind of got this smooth sand area, and then as it goes out to the sides, you've probably got like more rocks and more graded stones and things like that. But you'll see that kind of happen a little bit further on. But for now, yeah, just putting some pebbles down. No sort of reason to where I'm putting them, just putting them in however looks natural. And then this is called Dua River Sand. So this is just a slightly bigger grain of ADA La Plata sand. So I'm just putting some of that in. This is obviously to add texture, detail, and just to grade the stones out. It just makes things look so much more natural. You can obviously go with a clean look, and that works in some scapes, and it looks really nice. But I think in this instance, we're going to just add a lot of texture. So once I'd added the river sand, I then added in some large La Plata stone, but for whatever reason, my camera didn't focus, so that's why they've just appeared. And then next is some, I think it's Hugo Kamishi river gravel. And this is a really, really nice tiny little stone gravel for adding texture. So as I said, I just kind of put this all around the base of the stones, around the base of the hardscape. And yeah, as you can see, kind of kept it out of the middle. And it just created this, I don't know, like a little cove in my mind, I guess. At least that's what I was going for. And again, there's kind of just no reason to where I'm putting this. It's just however it falls, and just, yeah, it creates the most natural look. I'm just kind of brushing things back a little bit because things have come to the foreground, and I'm sure that's where it'll end up, especially when the water goes in and the fish goes in. Next up is the planting, and in this scape I'm going to be using moss. This is a Christmas moss, and I'm going to be tying it on with cotton. I don't usually use moss, but this just looked absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at that. It's such a vibrant green, and I'm sure it won't be when it ends up in my tank, but we're going to give it a try. So I sprayed the branches down with water in hopes that it would help the moss stick, and it didn't, and this job took way longer than I would have liked. If I could give anyone advice, if you are wanting to do this, I would suggest scape your wood, get it into the position that you want it, glue it together, then take it out and do this out of the tank, because yeah, this took a very long time. I didn't record it all because it was just painful to watch and probably and painful to do. So yeah, you get the point. Pretty much just wrap the moss around with cotton. I probably didn't do as much as I would have liked, but it was just a really painful and tedious job, and everything just kept falling off. But I prefer tying it than gluing it. I think it just keeps attached better. I often find that when I glue it after a few weeks, it just kind of floats off. So next it was time to prepare the plants, and in this scape I'm going to be using predominantly all grassy plants. So I felt like Cyperus helferi, or Cyperus helferi, however you say it, was one of the perfect plants for that look, and it's just a really vibrant green, and these specific ones were just so long. They were probably already about 50 centimeters tall, if not longer. So we've also got some Crypt spiralis. This is a really cool long crypt. We've got a lotus, which is called a Nymphia helvula. We've got some Anubias and some Anubias mini-coin. We've got Eleocharis acicularis, Liliopsis brasiliensis, Blixa japonica, and Helanthemum tenellum green. Now, tenellum green is a bit of a brute when it gets in the tank. It really does require some trimming and pruning because it does start overtaking things. I have used it in my 90p and it's pretty much drowned out any of these Eleocharis. So yeah, you definitely need to keep on top of that. So planting wise, I'm pretty much putting all of the Cyperus helferi just behind the main structure of the scape, and then to the sides we're going to grade out into the smaller grass plants. So now it's filled, I'm going to add the chemicals. So I use Flourishing Bands for the first 10 days. This is a phytohormone. I just think it really helps with getting the plants established, and it stops them melting as much as well. I really hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.